Good afternoon, colleagues. I am Alexander from AW Trading Software. Today I would like to review with you a technical indicator, AW Candle Timer, a candle end time indicator with a built-in trend indicator. This is an indicator that shows the time to the end of the candle and the direction of the current trend, both on the current time frame and in multi-time frame format. It also displays the current server time. This indicator is available for download in the MQL5.com marketplace or in your MetaTrader 4 or MetaTrader 5 trading terminal in the Market tab of the terminal window. Here it is here in the Market tab. This indicator is free. Links to it will be in the video description. I hope it will be useful for you. So, let's begin. Started the indicator. What do we see here? First, we see three text labels next to the price, which is the time until the end of the candle, the bigger mark in the middle. The mark we see is the time to the end of the candle on the current time frame. Above that, we have the mark of a higher time frame. So we have a half hour here right now, so we have M30 on top of H1, and below that we have M15. All of these text labels are red in color. Why are they red? Because we are in a downtrend right now. The trend indicator shows a downtrend on all three time frames. There is an indicator connected to the time frame indicator. More super trend, it's built into it, and the marks can color in colors corresponding to the trend. This is a built-in functionality. In addition, we see here the server time. So here it is, 1310, which is the broker's server time. It may differ from the time on the computer. For example, my time is 1210, but the broker's server time is 1310. Here we go next. Let's take a look at the input settings. What do we even have here? Entry settings. I always talk in thematic sections. So for example, the main settings section contains the basic information, the most important settings. And the graphic settings section, of course, contains everything related to fonts, colors, size, and layout. The super trend section regulates the settings of the indicator, which is built in here. Therefore, despite the fact that there are a lot of settings, they are all quite simple and easy to understand, because you can simply select the desired section and just look at the settings of this section separately. Let's run through all the input variables and see what they change. Starting with the main settings section. The first variable we see is candle time. It adjusts the location of these labels here. We have a couple of options. The first option is at the price, which is what we're currently using. In addition to that, we can also choose the positioning of these three marks in the corners. Let's choose upper corner, for example, and we'll see that we've moved all the labels. And in addition to that, their weight has changed a little bit. That is, we can see that the name of the time frame has appeared in front of each mark, because when they are located near the price, it is intuitively clear. But if they are located in the corners, then in general, it seemed to me a little bit better solution in order not to get confused between them. Next. Other than that, we have the next variable, which is trend strategy. We have a couple of options for how we color the text labels. The first option is we don't ask them. They will use the color from variable color, which is now silver. The second option is coloring in the direction of the candle, which is a bullish candle or a bearish candle. They have two different colors, both in the terminal settings most often, and here in the indicator itself. Or they can be colored in the direction of the current trend using the super trend indicator, the settings of which are located below. The super trend indicator settings are standard. Its period, multiplier, and the number of candlesticks on the basis of which the calculation will take place. Our free indicator, AW Supertrend, is used as a trend indicator, and I will add a link to it in the description of this video. If you want to download it, it's available for free. It can be downloaded from the MQL5.com marketplace or directly from your trading terminal. Next, we can enable or disable the server time display of this label, and we can adjust where the server time will be located. That is, the text label itself we can place in the corners. Next, I'm going to look into the graphic settings right away, in addition to colors and font size for the same server label. We have X and Y indents for server time, X and Y indents for these labels right here. Server time spacing. So for example, we can see now that here is less than relative to server time, not the first line between lines can be increased using this variable. At the top and bottom labels, you can adjust the prefix, and there is also an X offset in candlesticks. This is purely for customization at the price. So we can see that we originally appeared here, but then the label was moved and moved just a distance of 2 candles. So you can adjust these marks to the right or to the left. Thus, we have already gone through the graphic settings and the main settings section. Next, we have the candle time settings section. The candle time settings section adjusts the average marker. We can enable or disable the trend strategy that we have selected in the main settings for this label. So if we turn it on, there will be a display. If we turn it off, it will just gray out, and we can adjust its font size. So as we can see, it's a 12 font here, and in the other 2 marks, it's 7. So visually, it's a much better story when the current time frame is different from the ones that are not current. And so on. The upper time and lower time sections of the settings, and they're absolutely identical. You can enable or disable the display of this label altogether. That's the first thing. Next, you can select the time frame nearest, which is the closest on the upper mark. The closest will be the closest from the top. That is, for M30, it will be H1, for H1, it will be H4, and so on. And the bottom one is the nearest to the smaller side. So for M30, it would be M15. For M15, it would be M5, and so on. But when you select nearest time frame, you have to keep in mind that when you run M1, for example, the lower text label will just disappear. It won't be displayed because the terminal defaults to the smallest M1 time frame. Of course, you can make a smaller time frame, but the indicator will not take into account such things. It will take into account exactly what is built into the terminal. If we run a time frame of 1 candle equals 1 month, we will lose the upper text marker, in case the nearest time frame setting is selected. It is also possible to select a certain time frame manually, which will be displayed on the upper branch and on the lower branch. Next, we can enable or disable the trend strategy used here. If it is on, the variable will be colored. If we have it turned off, it will just be grayed out. We can also, as I mentioned earlier, customize the font size for each label specifically. That is, it will be smaller or larger. This can be adjusted manually. This is relevant given that for different monitors, for different computer settings, taking into account the resolution and zooming in or out of items in Windows settings, fonts can be visually different. So for different terminals, for example, on my 27-inch monitor, it will look like one visual. On a small laptop, it's going to look very different. So, of course, you have to adjust that. And you can set the indents if you have a very different resolution, and visually different, you can adjust the indents between these things using this variable right here. So you can just increase, for example, let's make it 40 here, and let's make it 5 here, for example. And in order to move the offset away, you'll see just how this will immediately change everything. Move to the right, and the indentation has visually changed quite a bit. Next, our input settings are angle, that is, the angle for the top mark, and the angle for the bottom mark is the angle of inclination. So here, it's 25 degrees right now. They can be closer to 90 degrees, or on the contrary, they can be absolutely parallel to each other. The next section is the settings of the trend indicator. They are standard. We will describe this indicator in more detail in the video dedicated to this indicator, which, as I said, is also completely free. We have versions for MetaTrader 4 and MetaTrader 5 terminals, and they are available directly in your trading terminal in the Market tab, and they are also available in the market at MQL5.com. The next part of the input settings is alerts. We can enable sound notifications for a certain amount of time before a new candle appears on the current time frame. That is, for example, now we have alerts enabled, which will give a sound signal 5 seconds before the appearance of a new candle. Also in the terminal library, there is a certain set of sounds that can be used for alerts, and you can choose the name of the sound from the library and connect it. That is, in case you use different notification sounds, so that you can distinguish them. In the default settings, I think it's just a default alert, but you can choose any other one. Next is last seconds. the last seconds will be redrawn in a different color. That is, they will be redrawn in our format, they will be redrawn in brighter colors. This visually helps to draw attention to the fact that now a new candle will appear after a short period of time. In this section, there are the following settings. That is, the first is that we can simply enable or disable redrawing. The number of seconds, that is now 25 seconds. Now for example, 50 seconds. For 50 seconds, everything will be redrawn in brighter colors, and the color for uptrend, and the color for downtrend, or for bullish and bearish candle, respectively. Well, all we have left to look at is to see how the last seconds functionality works. I've chosen 120 seconds. We've got 2 minutes. And we can see that we have painted in a brighter color just all the elements. So the functionality, as we can see, colors the last seconds quite brightly, quite clearly. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you find this technical indicator useful and relevant to your trading. Good luck!